Good morning and happy Easter weekend, everybody. Certainly, it's probably a good morning if you're listening to us from the state of Tennessee or the Knoxville area in particular, because Tennessee, if you stayed up for it, as we're staying up for as a basketball fan, has beaten Creighton, advancing to the Elite Eight, tying the high watermark in program history. We are here to talk about it and react to it. I'm your host, Chris Lee, joined by Max Barr and Blake Lovell. A reminder, the NCAA Tournament is here. BetOnline is your bracket headquarters for this season with the best bracket contest out there. Odds, lines, info on every game, every round, right up into the national championship. You can access the most up-to-the-minute wagering information anytime from your desktop or mobile devices. Even track your bracket in real time all the way through the tournament. Head to BetOnline today. Get in on all the action. Remember to use promo code BELIEVE at LEAV for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right, gentlemen. A wild basketball game. I guess wild's not the word, but certainly Tennessee goes on an 18-0 run in the second half. I'm not going to say we thought Tennessee had it put away because Creighton's a very good team. Creighton threw a junk defense at the Vols, tied them in knots for just a few minutes, and then the Vols recovered, never blew the lead, went on to a win over Creighton in Detroit. Blake Lovell, I'll throw it to you first. Your thoughts on Tennessee's win over Creighton to get to the Elite Eight?
I have no idea what you just said. I was too busy getting my report from Sam from Detroit, who says, "Good news, I did not get mugged. I was offered illegal substances. I declined. Shout out to Charles, my Uber driver from the airport yesterday. Told him about Southeastern 14, so I'm sure he's watching this. I'm sure he is as well. Charles, we welcome you to Southeastern 14. Yeah.
That's one way to start.
That's one way to start.
That's a great start.
Yeah. By the way, just quickly too, Mother Carol, $20 super chat to start the morning here. Breakfast covered by Mother Carol, who, listen, we did pick North Carolina to be the first number one to fall, and it was by an SEC team. So I guess we did get that part right. So Max just thought it would maybe another SEC team. We won't bring that up, but we appreciate Mother Carol as always here at Southeastern 14, and you also can leave a super chat if you'd like. That really helps the channel, so we appreciate that. All right, so where do we start? I'll tell you where I start. I don't want to say this on the air. That usually means it's probably good, but I mean Tennessee's physicality was just there's the difference in the game right there. Like, there was never. I mean, listen. Of course, Creighton would make a run. Because anytime you tweet something nice like I did, I said, Tennessee just went on one of the best offense and defensive runs I've seen all season. Like, in any scenario, that was one of the best 5 minutes of basketball I've seen from any team this year. And, if you add in the opponent, too, and the magnitude, like look, they probably could have done that against an inferior opponent earlier in the season. But that was just something when they made that run. And even then, I'm thinking, all right, hold on a second. Like, let's not get too carried away. I know Tennessee fans are probably even more nervous at that point after they get up, whatever that was at that time when they made the run. But I just keep looking at this and I'm thinking, how is Creighton going to get anything? Because you could tell, like, Tennessee's physicality bothered them completely for the entire 40-minute game. There was never a time where I looked at Creighton and felt like, hey, they're comfortable. Like, they're in a rhythm. They got up They were up a couple, 2 or 3, 4, something like that. They made that run towards the end of the first half. But other than that, again, you never felt like they were in a rhythm at all. And that's what we said. If you're looking at Tennessee and why they've got here, it's because they don't allow teams to get into a rhythm. And, it's just how many times this year have they done this to teams? Where it's like, and if you didn't watch the game, you look up and say, well, they gave up 75. Like, that might not be one of Tennessee's better defensive performances, but I thought it was one of their better defensive performances. Like, I don't even care what the numbers say. Like, if you watch the game, they just completely controlled everything. And Creighton could not get anything easy. They had to hit some tough shots to even get to that number. And I thought there are plenty of things we're going to go into, but Max, we said it in the preview. That I'm just going to give you a full disclosure here. So Max and I recorded the preview video once. There's a little inside baseball for everyone. We recorded the preview once, and I said, I think I'm going to pick Creighton. But a little bit later in the day, I said, Max, the more I look at this game, I said, I just think Tennessee is going to bully them, be the ultimate Max Barr bully ball team, and win this game. And so what did we do? We re-recorded that sucker. And I said, we're going all in on the Vols here. And I'm glad I did, Max. So
one of the first times all year that we have done that.
I don't think we've ever done that the entire season. That's the first time. But, like, I was so convinced. I'm like, they are going to push them around. And they did, man. They pushed them around. So,
yeah, we very rare to re-record just to change a pick, but it was warranted in this scenario. It was needed in this scenario. Man, March, the one reason why I love March Madness is because it's often the reason why you win. Obviously, it's because of your best players. You know, you're going to need them to perform well, but it's all the other guys. It's all the other little pieces. Getting a little 3 from Cameron Carr, you know, a nice assist from Freddie DeLeon. Awaka gives you a strong 21 minutes, 5 rebounds, like Gainey in there with some mid-range shots and stuff like that. That's what I took away from it the most, other than like the swarming defense. It was like, it's all those other guys that don't get talked about all that often that are coming through for Tennessee right now. And we were saying in the preview, we were like, hey, might be a Jonas Adu game. Game. We were one position off. It was a Josiah Jordan-James game. He was phenomenal. Barely came out of the game. 17 points. But this was my number one thing that I wanted to bring up. The big 3 for Tennessee without Santi in there was Ziegler, Connect, and James. Ziegler, 6 assists, 1 turnover. Connect, 5 assists, 0 turnovers. James, 2 assists, 0 turnovers. As a team, Tennessee had 16 assists, only 4 turnovers. I mean, I know Creighton's not a team that really forces a lot of turnovers, but, man, when you needed to execute and they were throwing those junk, little switching triangle box, the broadcasters are doing geometry out there trying to talk about the defense. Tennessee got what they needed to get. Ziegler stepped up, made some big shots. Yeah, a win is a win. We're elite now.
By the way, I think Tennessee went like almost 20-something, 28, 30 minutes without a turnover. Like they had 3, and then they didn't have their 4th until like 2 minutes to go in the game or something like that. I don't remember the exact thing, but yeah.
Yeah, Connect kind of got the headlines when I was reading the ESPN wrap-up. I thought Ziegler was the player of the game for the reasons that you stated, you know, the turnovers and some other things. But I've been high on Tennessee all year. I said, I think this is the year that Tennessee can get to a Final Four depending on the matchups. And I thought Creighton was a bad matchup for them because of Kalkbrenner. But there was a play late in the game. You guys remember it, and the announcers certainly picked up on it, where he got the ball in the paint, which did not happen a lot. And by the way, Toby Awaka had a lot to do with that, I think, when Jonas Adu had an off day and only played 17 minutes despite having 1 foul. But he could have spun he had his back to the basket. He could have spun left. The announcer said, man, I thought he had a clear dunk, and he didn't take it. I think maybe I'm making too much of it, but it felt like Tennessee got in his head with its physicality that Blake alluded to earlier. Sometimes you watch a game and you say, if these two teams played again, I don't know that the outcome would be the same. When this one was over and I had some time to reflect on it, I think if these two teams played again, Tennessee would win again.
Yeah. I feel like that's one of the things we said in the preview was you can look at Tennessee's numbers on paper and you can see, you know, if you're a coach, you can say, all right, yeah, this is one of the top defensive teams in the country, guys, be ready. But you can't prepare for what they're going to do to you. Like, I just don't know. What do you do, right? Say, hey, guys, you know, the way you play defense, take it up about 10 notches and literally just leave your hand on a guy. And it's just that's how they make you feel. Like even if they're not like touching you, right? Like it feels like they are just swarming you like at all times. And I just think, yeah, like that's the way they've gotten here is the defense. Because I mean, we said, right, it could be one of those things where people are going to make so much about the offense, but you can't forget that how good they are defensively. So like they don't have to be perfect offensively. Like that's kind of what we used to say about Alabama or Kentucky and Florida teams like that, which Alabama has gotten to this point now. But we said, hey, Alabama doesn't really have to be the best defensive team in the country because they could be the best offensive team in the country. They just have to be solid. Just be solid, and you'll be fine. Like at Tennessee, their offensive numbers are still good. They're really good. And this was the kind of game where, you get what you got out of those three guys in particular. And, with no Vescovy, of course, who didn't even play in this game. And so you needed to be good enough offensively. If they play like that defensively, Purdue's not going to want any part of that. I'm just going to be honest. Like I know they too play in a physical league in the Big Ten, but I just don't think anybody wants any part of the way Tennessee defends. And yeah, I mean, we can look at all the offensive numbers and all this other stuff, but the entire time I'm watching that game, I'm just thinking every possession, and you heard the commentaries mention, it's like Creighton just frustrated. Like they're just frustrated by having to play against this team. Like I never thought Creighton could match the intensity, and that's why Tennessee was able to do what they could do.
Yeah. Another thing was, Creighton was forced to play Jason Green, their backup for. Normally it's Mason Miller stretching the floor, but the physicality, they had to play Jason Green a season high in minutes. They had to. They couldn't handle it. But another thing, I want to mention Jemai Mashak. This is an exaggeration, but I almost feel like he is our best defender at the 5 also. Like when he gets switched on to Kalkbrenner, which was multiple times, I didn't go back and look at every one, but I feel like every time Mashak got switched on to Kalkbrenner, it ends up in like a block or a steal or something like that. Like I almost feel like Kalkbrenner was more comfortable operating when he had Adu or Awaka on him than when Mashak was on him. It's just something about Mashak being able to guard 1 through 5 legitimately. It just doesn't get talked about enough. He just kind of 25 minutes, only 4 points, but he gets 8 rebounds, 5 offensive, and just locks down 2 blocks, 2 steals. Mashak was huge. I mean, what was this, his first start? And I don't know how long. I think it was his first start since like November. So, yeah, I wanted to make sure we didn't get through Tennessee and not mention Mashak. So I'll giving you your flowers, Jemai.
I remember Kalkbrenner getting about 2 easy baskets. They were both alley-oop dunks, and I think they might have been in transition, secondary break. I don't know what I don't feel like they were in their normal half-court offense. Maybe I'm misremembering that. But to me, that was a big, big key to the game. Like you said, they just made it difficult on him. And if you know that going in, you like Tennessee's chances of winning a lot better.
Coach Rice.
Tell you what I like. I like Coach Rice's $19.99 super chat here. Purdue going to have their hands full with Ziegler, Mashak. Yeah, Connect was brought to Tennessee for these moments. He's right. So, man, Mother Carol, Coach Rice coming up big this morning, each with $20 super chats here. So, breakfast with Southeastern 14. They're covering the tab. So, we appreciate you all as always. But, yeah, I mean, we'll have our video up in a little while, looking at the Tennessee-Purdue game, the rematch. How many rematches we got here? We got 3 rematches in the Elite 8. So we've got Alabama and Clemson. We've got Tennessee-Purdue. We got Duke, NC State. Man, incredible.
Blake, you know what's funny? When you tweeted out that last night, you said, this is the best defensive, offensive stretch I've seen. I had written like halfway, like this is why Dalton Connect was brought in. And I was like, you know what? If I send this out right now, and Blake and I both just kind of double stamp the jinx. It's not going to go well at all. I just hit
Connect's going to go 0 of 8 the rest of the way. Look, here's what happened. As soon as I sent that out, that's when Creighton made their run.
I know.
I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this is why you don't tweet. And I knew beforehand, I always am hesitant about in-game tweeting because it feels like anytime you say something positive, there are 80 bots out there ready that whenever the game goes the other way, it's like
you're done.
They have this, it's like this, thing just over you. Like they are just waiting to just pounce.
Yep.
And so, yeah, but
it's funny.
Luckily it didn't happen.
One of the weirdest sequences of that game was right after Creighton had gone triangle in 2, which and Creighton admitted it. McDermott admitted, he said that was a desperation move. I mean, there's a quote out there saying, and it was. But I mean, what a weird thing to happen because, I mean, first of all, they go zone, and I think they said they've gone zone 50 possessions all year. Then they do that, and it's one of those things like how many times did Creighton practice a triangle in 2? Probably none. How many times did Tennessee go against a triangle in 2 in practice or in a game? Probably none. And there was a sequence, I don't know if you guys remember this, the ball got rotated to the left side, and Connect was about 6 feet behind the three-point line near the sideline and just drilled a 3 with a guy coming out. The whole right side of the floor, there were 2 guys standing there around the line, and there was not a defender between 15 or 20 feet of those guys. And I thought, all right, he's just hit a 3-pointer, but because now they've kind of figured out that they're just going to keep running at Connect and make other guys beat him. And Tennessee didn't rotate the ball in that situation, which either he didn't see it or he had confidence in the shot, or I don't know what the deal was, but I thought that could be a little bit of a pivotal moment where you're sitting there, you're going, all right, Tennessee feels like its best shot offensively is Connect hitting one with the guy running at him 6 feet behind the line when he got 2 guys on the other side of the floor wide open. And it ended up that Tennessee had enough to hang on. But just what a weird second half with the triangle in 2 and that possession and all the stuff that happened when Creighton tried to defend Tennessee.
Are you talking about the possession where it was like a high ball screen and then Shireman was like right there coming up and Connect just drilled it right in his face? Are you talking about that one?
I don't remember the sequence leading up to it. I just remember the shot, and I remember the other side of the floor.
Well, Rick Barnes said I didn't catch the entire post-game press conference. But
you didn't stay up to watch the entire post-game press conference?
Max, what's the matter?
That game ended at like 12:45 for me. And funny story, me and my roommate were playing Madden, and I lost to him, and I couldn't go to bed on a loss, so I stayed up till like 1:30 playing Madden because I couldn't go to bed on a loss. Sidebar.
It's like the basketball player rule where you can't leave the court on a shot. You got to make the shot before you
can't mentally go to bed on a loss. No. And now I lost my train of thought. Blake, what do you have?
I don't even know. Let's go back to Coach Rice here. $4.99 super chat on this one.
Oh, this is what it was.
Okay, we'll continue.
Okay.
I was gonna say Barnes in his press conference said he told Connect, he was like, they're taking you, they're gonna double you, they're gonna take you out of the game. You're gonna have to let Ziegler make some plays. And Ziegler did. I love it. That's what I like about Connect this year is early on it felt like Connect was like all about scoring and numbers, and he quickly turned into I'm doing whatever we got to do to win. I'm buying in on defense. We don't talk about Connect's defense that much. 38 minutes, he didn't get exposed on defense at all. So I just want to talk about Ziegler a little bit, making some plays when they were trying to take Connect out of the game.
Well, the other guy Blake mentioned him, Josiah Jordan-James, was kind of the unsung hero. He had 17 points, and it felt like I remember him hitting a corner 3 or 2 when he had a good look there. He misses 2 shots in the field, nails all of them at the line, has 4 rebounds, 2 assists, did not turn the ball over, 2 fouls. They needed a third guy to step up. Vescovi was out. The 2-guard spot was kind of a mess. I don't know why Jordan Gainey didn't maybe get more minutes, but that might have been. I mean, there were a lot of things you could say were the difference. You can't just pinpoint one guy, but I thought he was very important to them last night too.
Yeah. I went on a radio show. I think it was Blaine and Mickey, and I said, they're like, give me an over-under on what you think James and Vescovy need to score for Tennessee to win. Now, of course, Vescovy didn't wind up playing, but I was like, those guys got to at least score 10 points apiece if I think Tennessee's going to win this game. So James almost made up for it by himself, so he went with 17. And I said, give me Connect with 20-something, Ziegler with 15 or more, and James and Vescovy need to score at least 10 apiece. And I said, I think they'll win that game if that's the setup. Because we saw that like with Alabama, right? It's you got to have more than just one guy. Like when you get to these moments, you can't just depend on one guy. And like you said, Chris, there probably was a time there for a minute where Tennessee fans were looking up and seeing this defense and like, oh boy, Dalton Connect's going to have to score every point the rest of the way or we're in trouble. But no, you had other guys, again, make big plays. I said that in the group chat. I'm like, I thought Gainey, I was a little surprised he wasn't in whenever they did start throwing those defenses at him because I thought that he's probably the most, I mean, I don't know, just seems equipped to be able to hit shots, especially if they're trying to leave a guy like that wide open. But I mean, that's really the only thing you can look at here and say they made it work. I mean, Max mentioned Awaka earlier. There were a couple times where I thought, he took shots out of just probably, hey, we got to get a shot off, but then he makes the big play at the end there where he gets the and one and all that. That was a huge play, I thought, like momentum wise. At that point in the game, I don't remember the exact time or anything, but yeah, so it was multiple guys stepping up. Those three guys playing 37 or more minutes between them. That's what was going to have to happen for them to. And we said too. Remember, we mentioned Creighton's depth. They just are not a very deep team in terms of the production.
Yeah.
You look at their scoring. What is there? Only 4 guys I think that scored averaged above like 5 points or something on their team, and kind of played out that way, right? So, yeah, I mean a huge win for Tennessee, and then there were 2 in the final 8. Remember the SEC and how terrible it was when the league started 1-5. Now you got 2 teams that are a win away from a Final Four.
Awfully quiet out there. Awfully quiet out there for the SEC haters.
Do we have a box by halves? Because how many minutes did Jonas Aidoo play in the second half? I don't feel like it was many.
I'm not sure.
I could find it.
While you're finding that, I did notice. I didn't know this, but Ziegler's made at least 3 threes in 6 out of his last 8 games.
Wow.
Yeah. So I didn't realize how much of a perimeter punch he was packing in March.
I bet I know one of the games where he didn't hit that many.
Say that again?
Mississippi State. I bet I know one of the games where he was off. That was probably the Mississippi State game that we sat and watched courtside.
I was 4-12.
Oh,
the tournament doesn't count. Why play the tournament anymore? Who cares?
Tournaments,
lose your first game and go home and rest. That's what everyone should do now. So, hold on. Let me find. You guys keep talking.
Let's see. What else have we not hit? The little spell in the first half where Carr hit the 3 and DeLeon gave the assist. It was just in this weird little thing where they don't have Vescovy. They're trying to figure out what are we going to do at that other guard spot. But by the way, how's this for weird stuff on the bingo card? If before the season we said, all right, Tennessee's in the Sweet 16. They just came off 2 absolute dog offensive games, and they don't have Vescovy. What are your chances that they beat Creighton? I'm guessing they're not good. Of course, that's not been the kind of season it's been. Vescovy's been an offensive non-factor lately, and nobody knew Dalton Connect was going to be Dalton Connect like he ended up being. But that's just an interesting little thing. If you go back to the perspective of the season where he was a preseason, I think first team All SEC guy, and in the discussion for Player of the Year, he's got the flu, doesn't play a minute. They're in the Elite 8 without him.
All right, I can't find the box score, by the way, so just make up a number and say that Aidoo didn't play as much. He didn't. You're right. So
I love the Tennessee social media team when Cameron Carr hit the 3. They tweeted, Cameron Carr? Cameron Carr. That was just like, that was my exact reaction.
Yes, I think a lot of us thought that.
I'm like, what?
Saving him for the right moment. That's what matters. So, all right. Well, we spent 25 minutes talking about Tennessee. As we said, we will do the preview for that game. Will be up in a little while. So, yeah, there you go. Coach Rice. Coach Rice, he's got the connections on everything that we need. So,
all right, thank you.
7 minutes.
That's more than I thought it was, honestly.
Yeah. Well,
Sam's got some issues to deal with today.
Well, Sam's got a lot going on. It seems he's got a favorite nickname for a certain player that we will not refer to him as Sam's nickname for him. But Sam's looking for breakfast recommendations in Detroit. He's just having a time.
Sam, what do you think we are here?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you, Sam. I don't have any recommendations there. By the way, shout out earlier, Carol, I think still in the survivor pool here, 781. So need some wins, but thanks to Tennessee and Alabama, today could be the demise since one guy has 5 entries left. So not ideal. Here comes Michael Southern, and let me just tell you, Michael on Twitter accusing me of being a fan of every team other than Alabama, which, again, this is what I mean when I say that the propaganda spreads on Twitter very quickly. Seems like Alabama fans are the ones pushing this propaganda.
They're a little salty these days.
Don't want to point any fingers towards the Alabama fans, but you know who you are, Christian, Michael, so forth. But Michael said a tweet a minute ago.
I don't want to point any fingers, but I will.
He expected me to be wearing orange to both support Tennessee and Clemson because, I wouldn't want to do anything that could support Alabama in any way. So at least Michael knows what's going on. But, and of course, Brad is, as always, Big Baller Brad is just completely,
he's
pushing
not
the agenda as
He's not
usual.
biased.
But, all right, quick thoughts on the Crimson Tide. I guess we got to talk about them. We did our preview video. Full disclosure, Max took one for the team, okay? He made sure the Southeastern 14 kiss of death was not in play. But I think we all like the matchup for Alabama. I think we would all agree with that. I know they lost the first game, but for some reason, I just feel like Alabama is in a different gear right now. And I know Clemson's beaten a lot of good teams, but I really just like this setup for Alabama going into this game. But
looking at I'm just pulling them up right now, the VSiN splits, because I know Alabama fans were all over the splits last game with North Carolina being the huge favorite and everything. There's not too much. There's like 61% of the bets, 68% of the handle on Alabama, but that's, anything under like 80s for bet splits, there's not a ton to it. But I think I would have predicted that Alabama would be like a slight public favorite just because of how fun they are to watch and how fun the offense is. But nothing too much to draw on there. I know the last game there was a lot of chatter about it, but I didn't know the numbers, just checked them.
How important do you guys think that PJ Hall Grant Nelson matchup is? Because I feel like if Alabama gets that one, or it can at least play that to a draw, they're better across the floor otherwise. And I'm not saying Nelson is like a way inferior player to PJ Hall, but PJ Hall is probably their marquee guy. And I'm just saying, Nelson has been up and down. He had 6 points the first 2 games in this tournament, and then he goes off for one of the best games in Alabama history. So I feel like if Alabama can at least play to a draw there with that end of the thing, that it's probably got a really good shot to win. Is that too much?
Blake?
Nelson's coming off of one of the best performances in the tournament. So I would feel like, yeah, the numbers have been a little inconsistent maybe, but you've got to think that off of something like that, he's going to come out here with as much confidence as he's probably had in an Alabama uniform this year. And so, it's obviously a huge matchup given what Hall does, but I would agree with that overall. Yeah, I think, to me, think about what our reaction was when Alabama lost that game. back in November. Like, we just were like, man, Alabama they felt like the better team in this one, but Clemson just came out and took care of business, and that's just been what Clemson's done here recently too. So I don't know, man. I mean, there's just something about this game. Like I said, I know, and this is not taking anything away from Clemson, because look at what they've done. Look at who they've beaten to get here. But, Alabama's, I think what we saw against North Carolina, that was a huge momentum, confidence booster just for a team that, people had already said, well, when's the last time they beat like a truly, because Grand Canyon was the 12 seed, Charleston was the 13 seed. Their best win prior to that had come against Florida back in like February 21, because then they beat Arkansas and they beat Ole Miss. So it's like, can Alabama just keep that streak going, right? Can they put together multiple good performances back to back to back? Like, and that's what we said coming in the tournament. Like, you never can count Alabama out, because they're good enough to do that. Like, they're so good on the offensive end. And I said the thing for me is you can never put them away. So Grant Nelson plays like Grant Nelson did in the last game. Alabama, big. They win big here. So
I'll be honest, that's probably going to be like the marquee matchup everyone will be talking about in the front court. But I think the more important matchup is how they handle Ian Shefflin. That guy is a monster. That guy is a beast. I think he had like 15 something, or almost 15 rebounds against him the last time. I know he had double digits. And so I'm interested to see that Pringle, Jaron Stevenson, maybe even some Mo Diabate, Sam Walters minutes. Can they keep Shefflin off the boards? Because like kind of similar to, they play completely different styles, but kind of similar to Gonzaga and how like Graham Ike is the guy, but Anton Watson does so much for them that if they lose Watson or you take Watson out, it impacts them more. I feel like that's kind of similar with Clemson. PJ Hall's the guy, of course. He's going to, probably lead the team in scoring most nights, but Shefflin does so much for them. So I want a big game out of Nick Pringle. Keep Shefflin off those boards. I think Shefflin started like 2 for 2 from 3 last game also. He does a lot for them at the 4. So I think Pringle, Stevenson need a big night.
I wonder how bad heel bruise is, because when that was a weird looking play. Have you ever had a heel bruise?
Not.
They don't just go away overnight, usually.
Well, he should.
So I don't know how bad he hurt it, but I mean, he was visibly limping the rest of that game.
Max is the medical expert, remember, Southeastern 14. So whatever Max. He says is it goes. Okay. He says he'll be fine. Max
right.
So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Brett brings up a good point. I mean, again, think about how much has changed in terms of the rotations for these teams, especially for Alabama since then. So,
I mean, Blake Byler tweeted 14 hours ago, so like 7 p.m. yesterday, that Pringle is in a walking boot, but said, this is a quote, "Bro, we're in the Elite Eight. There's nothing that's going to keep me out."
You can play with a walking boot. Come on, why not?
Sure. I love it.
I would. He'll be fine. Nick Pringle. Can't just
the heel bruise game. You never heard of the heel bruise game?
Yeah. That's right. Shout out to Blueberry J here. $1.99 super chat.
Hey.
For the Go Big Orange. Loves the channel. And also, of course, Sam has to chime in with his own stuff. Sam, no to Tennessee fan, is saying Roll Tide and that he hates the channel. So, Sam, go get breakfast in Detroit. Go find you and Rick. Go get some breakfast, get a nice team meal. Enjoy yourselves. So, yeah. By the way, Auburn fans also chiming in. I wonder who this is in reference to. I think this is in reference to Clemson or Alabama. I'm gonna give you one guess. So, guarantee you, don't see. It's funny too because a lot of, like I said, a lot of Alabama Auburn fans on my Twitter timeline, and there are so many that are just responding like with gifs that are just like, "How did we get here?" We've got Alabama in the Elite Eight, we got Tennessee, and of course Bruce is doing the whatever.
Oh yeah,
the halftime stuff.
Studio.
Bruce is up there saying "Roll Tide" and all this other. I mean, people are just losing their minds. But think about it, that's got to be an awkward thing, right? It's like he's watching Alabama and Tennessee, and obviously there are connections to both programs where it's just, I don't know. So, whatever. But All right. Like I said, we talked about what game? Alabama, Clemson. We talked about it in another video, so go watch that if you haven't already. I'm sure Alabama fans in here have already watched it. But check it out. We will have our Tennessee-Purdue video coming up here in a little while. We're going to go ahead and record that. We're not going to record it twice this time, although we may. But, Chris, there was a request. There was a request on Twitter from someone named Reese.
Our good buddy
You know
Reese.
the name, Chris? You know the name?
I know Reese.
So, Reese has requested that you not be part of the prediction video because Max and I went all in on Tennessee to beat Creighton, and it worked out. So there was no kiss of death. So his concern is that we're going to do a prediction video, and we're all going to somehow pick the same thing, and it's going to mess with the mojo. He has asked that you sit out the prediction videos until the end of the tournament. But
yeah, Reese says Chris can't come back until Sunday. No, not allowed.
Oh, man.
It took me launching an SEC YouTube channel to realize the powers I had over the basketball universe.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, there you go.
There you have it.
All right. We'll wrap up here. We appreciate you guys. Again, we got almost 500 people in here. It's 8 a.m. The game ended at 5 a.m. So I assume not everyone stayed up to watch it. I know Tennessee fans did, but there may be other fan bases in here that did not. But hey, we got them all covered. And there you go. Sam.
Sasquatch
you really want us to use?
Where did Sasquatch come from? Like, how have we dragged Sasquatch? To
You
Detroit?
know who he's talking about, don't you?
I mean, I'm thinking of a certain guy, but
yeah, Sam is really taking aim at a certain opposition, a certain opponent that the Vols are going to be playing here.
Okay. My head was somewhere else. I got it now.
Yeah,
okay.
He wanted us to use that in the preview because he wants us to call that player that name. Sam, you're on one today, man.
That seemed like an unfair spot for us.
Oh, I'm not going to refer to him as that. Yeah. Also, shout out to Jamal Shed.
Oh man, did you see that? I had that
Houston
on the
would have
second
taken care of
screen.
business.
Yes.
My goodness. My national championship pick. Adios, but yeah, that was awful.
That was terrible.
Man.
Happens every year where like a title contender loses just because of an injury. Like last year, I feel like Texas was just on fire, and then Dylan DeSue goes down after he's averaging like 25 for the month of March. And now, I mean, you saw what I grew up a Duke fan, okay, but watching Shed this year and what he did against A&M, I'm rooting for the guy. Like, he's so charismatic with the style of play, and he's such a good guy. If you've seen the videos of him cleaning up after games and stuff like that. Yeah. That one was tough. I really like Shed a lot.
Well, all right. We're up. Yeah. SC Scott guy and the Lady Gamecocks in the Elite Eight. It's like just rinse, repeat at this point.
Yeah.
Shout out to them. That was an interesting game against Indiana. But survive and advance. That's all that matters in the tournament. And you guys are also all that matters in the tournament here. Supporting us here at Southeastern 14. Before you head out, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you're not already done that. Follow us on Twitter. You see all of our handles there. At the Blake Lovell, at Chris Lee 70, at Max Barr CBB. A lot of just genius insight on Twitter, I'm sure. Max and I will undoubtedly jinx someone soon enough when we put out some thoughts on Twitter. Tennessee, we almost did it to you.
And we'll have a few portal videos out soon also.
Yeah.
We're on that.
We'll be having videos on all 800 players that are going to be making their way to the SEC this offseason. So, yeah. So hit that subscribe button. A lot of stuff coming here.
And I'm trying to watch baseball, and it's really hard to do with all the basketball going on.
Well,
but we do what we can.
We do what we can. All right. Tennessee Purdue video coming soon.
All right. Happy Easter weekend to everybody. Thanks for watching. For Max Barr, for Blake Lovell, I'm Chris Lee. We are Southeastern 14, presented by BetOnline.